Hello and welcome to another episode of Regions Compared. This episode, we're talking about the Colorado and New Mexican Rockies, talking about their hiking and their natural beauty, the ups and downs of both in the hiking space, and which one is ultimately better. Here we have just an overview of the Colorado Rockies, a map kind of outlining how big they are. They are huge, they take up most of the state. So I'm going to start off by showing some of the beautiful scenery you can expect to find in the Colorado Rockies and give a little overview on what you can expect from them and how they differ from the New Mexican Rockies. So first off, the Colorado Rockies are taller than the New Mexican Rockies. They're the tallest part of the Rockies in general. There is over 50 14ers in the state, which are mountains above 14,000 feet, and Colorado as a state has the highest average elevation of any other U.S. state, and that is for good reason. These mountains are huge, and they're plentiful, and they're everywhere. They're very tall, but they're also very green, and because they're so tall, they capture a lot of moisture from the storms that go over them, so there's pretty much waterfalls come out of every little orifice that you see, creeks coming from everywhere, lakes at all the high elevation portions, beautiful lakes like this lake here right at the base of Handy's Peak, which is a 14er in the San Juan section of the mountains. There is just an abundance of some really amazing scenery. You have some very high tundra areas because you have those areas that are just continuously above 13 and 14,000 feet. Now, New Mexico does get pretty tall too in its mountains, but they don't have any 14ers. So Colorado's winning on that section. As you can see here too, these Rockies are pretty steep. The New Mexican Rockies, by comparison, are kind of sloped, but these Rockies are kind of a mixture of steep and sloped and all over the place. Very lush, and the region has many accessible trailheads. You don't need any crazy vehicle to really get back in the Rockies and enjoy some nice hikes, although it is recommended if you want to go on some of the more legendary ones. But now let's get into some of the downsides of the Rockies. I know that's kind of hard to believe. There is downsides. So because it is so high up, it does stay cold for longer. The hiking season here is fairly short because, the Rockies are somewhat north, especially compared to New Mexico, and especially if you're in the northern parts of the state. And because of the higher elevations, you tend to run into a lot more snowpack a lot later on and a lot earlier on than you would expect. Also, there is a lot of people in the Colorado Rockies. It is going to be hard for you to find a hike that you're not going to see some other people on, and a lot of the really cool hikes you're going to see a lot of people on. So if you're into solitude when you're hiking, the Rockies might not be the place for you, Colorado Rockies, that is. But there definitely is some places that if you drive back out there, you will get some solitude, but it is rare. Now we're talking about the New Mexican Rockies, and as you can see, they're just a little nub that kind of protrudes into the northern part of the state. But there's some nice mountains there, some beautiful scenery. So we're going to start off with some pros of the New Mexican Rockies, and as you can see right here, some of the pros, some beautiful wildlife you're going to see. Because there is more solitude in the New Mexican Rockies, less people hiking here, there's a lot more solitude and thus a lot more animals coming out on the trail. And depending on who you are, that's either a good or a bad thing, but I'd say it's a very, very good thing. There is some beautiful, beautiful animals you will see on the sides of this trail. I've ran into bears, I've ran into lots of marmots, I've ran into mountain goats, deer, all sorts of stuff in the New Mexican Rockies, and they're all just out on the trail wandering around because they don't see people all that much. So that's another great thing. When you're on the hikes in the New Mexican Rockies, you will just be alone. It'll be very quiet, it'll be very peaceful. You'll see a couple people here and there depending on what trail you're doing, but for the most part, not many people at all. Also, because the mountains are a little more southerly and because they're a little less tall than the Colorado Rockies, the hiking season is bigger. All these photos you're seeing right now were taken in May, and these are the highest regions of the state and the highest peaks. And as you can see, they're already fairly cleared off from snow, and you're just open to hike pretty much between the months of May all the way into probably late October, I would say. So you have a lot of opportunities to hike, but now let's get into some of the negatives. So, in the New Mexican Rockies, because they are so untreaded, there's a lot of places, as you can see in this one viewpoint, where you just cannot access unless you're willing to just hike really deep in there. A lot of the trailheads are accessed via some pretty awful roads, I would say. You're definitely going to need a 4x4 to access some of the most amazing trailheads in the state. But other than that, honestly, there's not much else bad I can say. I mean, there's definitely less lushness and less water, but it's still just striking mountain scenery, like these views of the Taruchis peaks that you can see right here. And because of the abundance of animals, it kind of just makes up for it in spades. Really do like the New Mexican Rockies. Definitely one of my favorite regions in the entire US to hike. So, which is better? So for Colorado, you got some definitely more grandiose scenery, definitely a lot more geology popping off, cliffier, lusher, but a lot more people, and the hiking season is fairly restricted. In New Mexico, you got a bigger hiking season, less people, lots more wildlife, but the mountains aren't as grandiose, and the trailheads are definitely a lot harder to reach. But ultimately, I would say that I do prefer the New Mexican Rockies. They just provide that true outdoor experience that you'd want from mountains. No one's around. The trails are fairly well paved. Yes, they are hard to get to, but if you have the right vehicle for it, they are a nature's person's paradise. And I really do recommend that people check out the New Mexican Rockies. Thank you for watching this episode of Regions Compared. All the links for all the hikes shown in this video are down below, as well as the link for my Instagram. Little reminder to go out and hike. And again, thank you for watching and stay tuned for more videos.